Welcome back to Ici Arts. Today I'm sitting down with visual artist Khoury, known online as Ginger Potter, whose practice spans animation, art installation, and painting. His work explores the evolving relationship between the physical and digital worlds, creating emotional, often surreal scenes where his signature recurring character navigates technology, identity, and vulnerability. Exhibited internationally, including at Art Dubai and featured in Times Square, his practice has emerged as a distinctive voice in contemporary art. Ralph, welcome to Ici Arts.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
How did you first get into posting animations online?
First of all, I started with doing stills actually before animations, where I wanted to create my character. That started out in a very primitive way, I would say. It was a very blank character, even more so than now. And I just wanted to express more or less what's going on in my day-to-day of every week. So it was a challenge for me to create a new artwork every single week and to post it on my Instagram and to see where it goes. And eventually I had like 10 of these illustrations from a project that fell through. Mm-hmm. And I had these illustrations and I wanted to post them. They were black and white and there was no color, there was no animation within them. And I just started posting them on Instagram and they blew up, like started garnering more likes. And eventually I finished posting through the 10 weeks because I had 10 illustrations. And I wanted to keep that going. So every week since 2018 or so, I've been doing that. And eventually I wanted to evolve that more and more. I started adding colors to the artworks. I started making them more about relevant topics around Lebanon and as well international topics that are going on in the world. And one thing led to another, and I was always inspired by Disney animation and how they used to do them. So I wanted to try it out. So I started like animating small things like turning a wheel, for example, and stuff like that. And eventually started adding more elements that are moving and animating them. And eventually it became what they are today, these animations. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And this character that you created, is it inspired by you in any way? Is it based on you, your character?
Well, I categorize it more as a blank character that anyone can embody. It is based on my body because all of the animations I do are frame by frame, hand-drawn, and rotoscoped. So basically, I film myself, and then I trace and draw all of the different movements in the video that I'm filming myself in, and then to create the final animation that you see. So physically, yes, it's based on me, but the meaning behind it is to have like this blank featureless character that anyone can embody and relate with. So yeah.
And it's not just metaphorical. He actually looks like a blank page, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That anyone can embody. And as well, it plays on this effect that in the current digital world, we're all becoming more similar to the point that that we can't distinguish each other from each other, really. So yeah, that's more or less the idea behind the whole character. Mm-hmm. So, and it blew up. Like a lot of people now, when they see it, they know that this is that specific character of Ginger Potter. Mm. So yeah.
And speaking of the digital age, you often focus on struggle, especially this ongoing transition between the real world and the digital world.
Yeah.
Why did you want to focus on this topic?
I think because it's the most relevant topic of our time, because this transition right now that we're going through from the physical world to the digital world, it's a very unique thing that I don't think in 100 years we'll be experiencing, because in 100 years, most people will be used to the digital world more so than the physical, I think. And 100 years ago, everyone was more used to the physical world. So this very specific transition, I feel, is something that touches all of us. Mm-hmm. And talking about its different struggles and living through it, I think a lot of people relate to it, and I live through it. So it's the most natural thing for me to express. And I think I want to like document that in my own artistic way, and to showcase for future generations what that transition might have been like. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And some of the themes you also explore in your work touch on mortality.
Yeah.
In the digital age, especially now with things like Meta having patterns around people continuing to exist after they die.
Yeah. Exactly.
Tell us more about that.
But the thing is, like I said, in my work, I try to tackle this transition between the physical to the digital. and I tried to tackle different themes within that overall theme when it comes to that. So basically, one of those themes is mortality, because it's something that I've been noticing more and more, that we're relying on keeping people alive through digital means despite them being dead. And like this conversation around what is ethical around creating someone and having them do certain things and speak certain things after they die without their consent, how far are we letting that go forward, and where should there be the limit? So that's some of the things I've been tackling in my work. So it started with like how they were recreating celebrities that died with CGI, with Michael Jackson, for example, when they turned him into a hologram. So that's where the idea started popping up in my head, like more than a decade ago. But eventually it started happening more and more in Hollywood and through CGI and all of that. And you would think at first that it's just going to happen with celebrities and not really with the general public. But now with, like you said, Meta, it has now a patent on basically having everyone that has a social media have their social media account post on their behalf as they would have posted when they were alive, when they pass on eventually. So basically, we reach a certain immortality through our digital identities. We've become immortal through them. While our actual selves die, and eventually those characters will evolve and turn into who knows what, except especially with AI now.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it's scary, I would say. So I would say now we're like sleepwalking into that eventuality, and creating artworks around that topic to actually discuss these things, I think would be important to actually see where the limits should be and to discuss it in general, not just like give away all of our information, because in this age, you're giving away your image, your voice, your thoughts, and all of that to those social media, because our lives are completely on those on our phones at this point. So it is something important to talk about, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about them. So my artworks is like a small easily packaged way, visually packaged way to express those ideas.
In a sarcastic way?
Some in a sarcastic way, some in a more cheeky, fun way, and some in a more serious way. So like some of my artworks, they show what an eventuality in a world where basically we're all digital, completely digital ghosts, pixel ghosts that are just walking around in the physical world right now, where just trees inhabit the world right now. So what would that look like? So that's one of my animations that I did, that where we're all living in that digital world and no longer living physically. So that's like an ironic, maybe extreme way of looking at things, but it could be an eventuality that we're looking towards in the future. There are a lot of people that are advocating for something like that, which I'm not necessarily something that I want to live in, but probably won't be alive by then. But another one is basically showing my character falling into a grave, but like still standing on the edge of that grave is their digital pixeled version of themselves. So that's, I think, one of my more serious works that just showcases this whole concept in a very succinct way, and that a lot of people can be interested in and talk about. So
and are you tackling these themes to raise awareness, or are you just trying to create a dialogue?
I think to try and create a dialogue, and it is something that scares me at the end of the day. So like talking about it and having this conversation on a wider scale in our country, in popular discourse in general, I think it's something to look into much more, because I don't think a lot of people do talk about it. So but like I talk about different themes when it comes to the digital world. So not just like mortality and like our identities and all of these things, but I think I just create the artworks, and I'm very interested with the dialogue that happens around them. So I see all of my followers discuss what they see in the artwork, what it actually means, and we have like a whole conversation around it, and it just opens up different discourses. So it's a fun thing for me.
And Raf, since so much of your work deals with digital identity and the future of technology, how has the rise of AI influenced the way you think about your practice?
I think when it comes to AI, it is still a bit early to tell where it's going to actually go, but I did talk about AI in my artworks multiple times. There is this, the thing is with AI that worries me the most is how the people that have money and like the financial people on top are looking at AI as a way to replace art in general, to the point that any art form just ends up with you behind the computer, just pressing a few buttons, and eventually something comes out. So I feel when it comes to art, the most essential thing about it is the human element of it, and I think losing that would just turn it into content more than art, I would say. So I feel like when it comes to like, for example, this is an example I give often, is like when it comes to movies, I think it's one of the most beautiful forms of art. And it's a very collaborative type of art, a very human type of art, where you see actors playing off of each other and creating moments that you wouldn't really see them if it just everything is generated through a computer. So I feel like, and there are some people that are talking about turning movies into just something that is generated through AI. So I'm not really a fan of that. So I wouldn't want that to be the ultimate form of AI. Some people also look at AI as the thing is, like, we rely on something so convenient so easily that it could take over in such a way that it just turns everything else meaningless. And I don't really want that to happen. So when it comes to AI, it can be helpful, I feel, in a lot of things, but just completely being dependent on it and rely on it to express yourself and to create and to like speak on your behalf, I think it just turns everything very uninteresting and very sloppy and bland and not fun and not interesting. So yeah.
And Raf, you're also a painter.
Yeah.
But yet you decided to focus more on digital art.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this approach? Did you notice that something was missing in the art scene in Lebanon in particular?
I think when it comes to digital art, I was able to expand my voice and my expression to the whole world through digital means. So I've been able to sell my digital artworks all around the world, exhibit all around the world as well, just through a press of a button of sending an email. So I think it has helped a lot when it comes to being discovered and being seen on a wider scale, not just in Lebanon. So when it comes to that, although I very much enjoy painting because like it relaxes me whenever I paint, and I enjoy creating on that scale and physical items and all of that. And it is something I'm focusing on more. But when it comes to the optics, I guess is the word, or like how to send a physical artwork and to sell it, I feel in Lebanon it's very difficult to like... Logistics, yes.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. When it comes to logistics, I feel physical artworks are much more difficult to ship, to sell, and to send to someone, much more than digital artworks, especially in Lebanon. For example, now I was doing a giveaway for a print where I wanted to send it to someone in America if they want, for example. I go to Lebanon Post and they tell me I can't send the print with the frame, I have to send it just as the paper, and like I can't send the full experience of the artwork. I want to send it in a very nice way and all of that, and it will cost a lot to send it and all of that. When it comes to a digital artwork, I just send it through an email. So just the press of a button that takes me just 2 minutes instead of having to go to the post and actually talk to them and to like fix everything around that. So the logistics, I feel, especially in Lebanon, are very difficult to handle and to deal with, to have a structured way of selling prints, of selling paintings on a regular, sustainable way as compared to digital art. So,
and as you mentioned, you've exhibited internationally
Yeah.
at Art Dubai and in several places around the world, but your work also made it to Times Square.
Yeah.
Tell us about this experience and what it meant for you personally and as a Lebanese artist.
For me, like, it felt like a movie. Whenever I tell this story, it really feels like those movies I used to watch when I was a kid, where the movie is in Times Square and you see like, okay, it's on a screen, it's Times Square, it's all big lights and all of that. But eventually, when I went there, it did feel like a movie because everything was like very time sensitive and limited. So I had to get there, and as soon as I get there, I just had an hour to like get to actually Times Square to see my artwork being exhibited, and I didn't want to miss that. So I was worried about the airport being late and the taxi being late and all of that. So everything was on time. When I got to the hotel, we were in peak Azme at the time here in Lebanon.
Crisis.
So crisis. So credit cards weren't available, and like the bank situation and all of that. So when I went there, everything was paid for the hotel, and they told me I have to like put in my credit card. I told them I don't have a credit card. I have cash. No, they wouldn't take it. So like everything was on time until I got to the hotel. Eventually, after like half an hour of like arguing with them, my friend came and gave them their credit card, and we started running to Times Square. And that was the first time I saw everything. It was already the sun was down, and I started seeing the lights, and I was walking in the movies that I was watching as a kid. And eventually, when we got to Times Square, 10 minutes away from walking, the second I stepped into Times Square, I turn around and my artwork flashes right then and there in front of me. And I was holding like a print of it to like show myself with it. And the people around there saw me with it and they were like, that's your artwork. And like, it felt like a movie.
Wow.
So for me, it was a culmination of a dream come true, because you wouldn't expect someone from Lebanon in peak crisis that created this artwork in his bed when there was no electricity at my house. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning when I created that artwork without any electricity. To have a few months later his artwork on one of the most iconic screens in the world, across an ocean. So yeah, it was a dream come true. And it really showed that through digital means especially, there's so many possibilities for a lot of artists, especially here in Lebanon. And I feel like it is something that I hope Lebanon would embrace more and push more, because it really can showcase the immense talent that we have in the country on a wider scale, on a global stage. So, yeah.
Ralph, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
My complete pleasure.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.